Hello, everyone. Welcome to the main stage. We got Poornima Nayar, and she will be talking about GraphQL and Umbraco Heartcore. Take it away.
Thank you. Hello. It's great to be back on stage. I've done so many talks in the past 1-2 years, but nothing beats me being on the stage with a live audience in front of me. So let's learn some GraphQL querying with Heartcore in the context. A little bit about myself. I'm Poornima Nayar. I'm a freelance .NET developer. I live in Berkshire, UK, with my husband and my 7-year-old daughter. I'm a Microsoft MVP for developer technologies, and as of yesterday, I'm a 4-time Umbraco MVP. Non-work me, obviously, I'm a mother. I spend a lot of time reading, tech, non-tech, fiction, anything. And I'm also a student of Carnatic music, and I've been training on the vocal aspect of it for the past 5 years. And that's my Twitter handle, should you wish to connect with me on Twitter. So, GraphQL. What is GraphQL? You might have heard of GraphQL as an API, but it's more than just an API in itself. It's regarded as one of the cool kids on the API block, and it's a very different API paradigm, given that it's a query language for your API, and it's supported by a server-side runtime, which understands your queries, parses, validates it, and then executes it, giving you back the result. Yep, that's all the tech part of it, but in the simplest terms, what GraphQL is all about is having your types and querying or asking for specific fields on that type. So you might have a person type. You can ask for, say, a name, the height of the person, or the employment of a person. That is what GraphQL does to you. With something like REST or gRPC, where you have the server giving you an API and telling that this is what I can do for you, GraphQL is all about exact fetching. That is the ultimate strength of GraphQL. In fact, we had GraphQL now between all of us is because Facebook wanted to focus on exact fetching and not worry about the overfetching or underfetching. That comes with REST and goes hand in hand with that. And that's the greatest strength and one of the trademark secrets about GraphQL. The focus with GraphQL API is all on the client. Client apps ask for what they want, and they get exactly what they want, nothing more, nothing less. So you can think about GraphQL as a very client-focused and experience-driven API, and is completely unapologetic about it. So it says, hey, I have the capability to give you the name of a person, the description of a person, and it's up to you to ask for it. So it's all in your hands, and that's where you win. So if you look at the example here, this is not taken from Heartcore. This is just an example I've put together. My query on the left-hand side is JSON-ish. What I get back is JSON. There are a couple of things which are peculiar about it. A, the result set is a mirror image of my query, and that's actually a part of GraphQL spec itself, that the result set should be a mirror image of the query. You ask for something, and you get exactly what you ask for, nothing more and nothing less. So it's very client-focused. But more than that, you can also ask for related information. So if you have a hierarchical data, GraphQL can let you extract parts of that data. That's another winning point with GraphQL. And that's exactly why we have GraphQL within us. So we are in a world of mobile apps and websites where every business is mobile first. And if you are thinking of Jamstack, GraphQL takes Jamstack to an entirely new level with the focus completely being on the client. If you want a server and a client app which are completely decoupled, which are free to iterate and develop at their own pace, then you are probably looking at GraphQL, and you should probably think about going the GraphQL way. So today, what are we building? Let me go back here. So this is a page which I've put together in Blazor and Azure Static Web Apps. I'm not going to explain the build part of this because that was my topic of the talk last year. But we'll understand more about the querying, the GraphQL query that goes into building this behind the scenes. And to help with that, we go into Heartcore. I have my node here. If you are familiar with Umbraco, that's what you get. It's Heartcore is Umbraco at the end of the day. I have the hero section, which has got an image, headline, text, all the usual suspects. Then I've got a nested content field, which helps you put together the content that you see in here. And then I've got a footer content, which is gallery, just because I wanted to bring some block list as well into my talk, if I could, if I have the time today. So we'll talk about what goes into the GraphQL part of this, and maybe if I've got the time, I'll show you something else as well. So let's go into the back office and see what my document type is made up of. This is what my document type looks like. It's a plain and simple, normal Umbraco document type. I've got a page content, I've got the footer content, and what we'll be doing is living on the GraphQL playground. So this is like a browser-based IDE that's baked into the back office of Umbraco Heartcore. It helps you test your queries to begin with and gives you interlistens and error highlighting and so all of that. One of the cool things about GraphQL is a feature called introspection. And that is a feature using which it can query itself for information and ask for information about the API, which means that your API docs are always up to date with your API, and you can actually use that at your fingertips to learn more about the API, see what it can offer. So let's start writing some queries. So any GraphQL query starts off with a keyword query, and then I'm going to give it an arbitrary name, say get page info. Now, with Heartcore, I'm not going to go in detail to the schema generation, but what I get is for every document type I have in the back office, 2 fields are generated for me. So in this case, my document type is called page. I get 2 fields. The first one is the page field itself, which helps me query a single content node by its ID or URL. And also an all page field, which lets me query all the content of the page type. We will stick with the page field for the time being. If I go back into my node, content node, I have the URL. So let me copy that and use that in my query. So the argument is URL, and that's my URL. And then I can start asking for fields. So the fields are here. Let's ask for something simple like ID, the name, and the content type alias. ID, name, content type alias. So let's go back, execute the query, and see. There we go. We have the information. That's exactly what you would find in the content node. Now, the query is hard-coded. Let's introduce some GraphQL variables now. So I go here. I start off with a URL variable, and I give it the type that it needs to be. The type is a string, and the exclamation mark in GraphQL is a notation that this particular variable belongs to a non-nullable string type. And then I assign the value of my variable into my argument, which is like so. The $sign is how you actually define a variable in GraphQL. And I pass in my variable as a separate dictionary like so. Now if I execute this, there we go. I've got the same exact result here. Now, back to my slides. Where do these fields come in from in GraphQL? And that's where you have interfaces. Yeah, interfaces in GraphQL. Just like you have interfaces in C#, we have interfaces in GraphQL as well. So interface is nothing but a promise or a contract that the implementing types have to adhere to. In my example, we have an interface called character, which got 4 fields, ID, name, friends, and appears in. So when the type human and the type droid implements that particular interface, that is character, it is saying that, hey, I'm implementing this interface. I promise to give you ID, name, friends, and appears in. And in addition to that, I've got my own fields as well. So this means that if you have a query where you are expecting a set of generic fields, like the ID or name, you can use the character, and the actual implementing type is not a problem or something that you should not worry about. But however, if you want to pick up, say, a special field or a specific field like the star shapes or a primary function, which comes in with Droid, you have to then get the actual concrete type, which implements the interface. So let's go back, before that, let's talk about interfaces in Heartcore. There are certain interfaces in Heartcore, the first one being the content interface. Every content node, or every document type, mostly, implements the content interface. So this is the interface where the fields like ID, or the content type alias, or the fields like create date, update date, all those fields which you might have come across in an iPublished content comes in from. Again, if you have tree traversal like ancestors or descendants, that again comes in from the content interface. Talking about the media interface, it's implemented by every media type. If you have compositions, say you have a SEO document type, which usually is a composition in normal Umbraco world, that SEO document type, if it is used as a composition by any of the document types, that actually gets generated in the schema as an interface in itself. And then any document type which uses that composition implements that particular interface. Similarly, element types, they implement an interface called element. That is the name of the interface. So going back to Heartcore again, let me show you something. If I look at my page type here, it implements content, and it implements hero. So my hero is the composition that I have here, which I have for the image and the headline, the text, call to action, background color, all of that. So because this is an interface and my page implements the interface, I can query the fields of this document type as though it was a part of the page field. So going back to the GraphQL playground, let's start asking for, let's open the GraphQL documentation. So let's ask for the headline, text, the image. Now, the image, it's a funny thing, because it's a media, it's an interface, and it's made up of subfields. With GraphQL, you cannot say that, hey, for this particular type or interface, get me all the fields. You have to be really specific about what you ask. So we have to ask for subfields here in this case. That is ID and the URL, which will bring back the fully qualified URL. Moving on with the hero, let's bring up the hero here, actually. We have the background color, which is based on the color picker. Again, it's a complex type, which has got both a color and a label. Let's bring that up. We then need the call to action. That is a link type, again a complex type. Let's bring out the URL underneath the hood. That is my query for the first part done. And that's the data getting back from Heartcore for me. And that is what is powering this part of my GraphQL page, the Blazor page. Now, let's move on. Let's talk about the page content. So that is made up of a nested content field in Umbraco for me, and it's got 4 different nested content items. That is features, 2 of them, a text section, and facts. So let's start querying these and bringing this back. So let's go to our docs again. We are living in the docs section for today. Bring the page, and look at the page content here. That is bringing me back a list of element types. So the square brackets in GraphQL means it's a list, and what I get back is a list. That's no good for me, because I am actually after the concrete types and the fields that are coming out of the concrete types, because I want the features, I want the facts, I want the text section, and the element is not good. Because what we have with the page content and the element type is just a content type alias and nothing else. So that is where the concept of fragments come in with GraphQL. So fragments are reusable snippets of GraphQL query, which can be used to get the concrete type underlying like the interface, or you can even improve the reusability of your GraphQL query with fragments. There are 2 types of fragments. The first one is inline fragment, because it's inline, as you see in the query here. It's inline, and in this example, what it means is that I'm querying the hero field on some GraphQL API. I have to get the character possibly, and I'm seeking the hero of the episode, Jedi. I know that the character interface has a name field, which is fine, but I don't know whether the hero character is a droid or a human. So I'm saying that if it is a droid, bring me the primary function. If it's a human, get me the height. So that is how the syntax of an inline fragment goes. You have the 3 periods followed by the keyword on, and then you specify the actual concrete type that you're seeking. If it is a droid, you say the droid. If it's a human, then you say the human. So let's put this into action with our GraphQL query now. So page content. Let's actually start writing some GraphQL query for some of the nested content items. So the first one is the features. And my features document type looks like so. It's got an image right, which actually drives whether the image is on the right or the left, a heading, a text, a call to action again. So let's go back and write some inline queries. So on, the concrete type here is features. And then I can start adding for feature text, feature heading, image, and then ask for the ID and the URL again if needed, and see what we have. Bingo, we have some information coming back, and I've got two pieces of the features nested content items coming back to me. This is all good. I'm able to get the fields for my concrete type, but we can take this a level further with what is called the named fragment. This is where the reusability aspect of fragments come in, because these are named. It is a fragment, but it's got a name, and it again acts upon a concrete type. So the syntax goes like this: the fragment keyword, followed by a name of your choice for your fragment, followed by the keyword on, and acting upon a concrete type, in this case, a character. So for some reason, that's it's an interface here, but you can act it upon the concrete type as well. And then you have your results, the selection set. So what the fields that you specify in your query for GraphQL is called the selection set. You specify your selection set. And to use that fragment in your GraphQL query, you would use the syntax, the 3 dots, followed by the name of your fragment. So let's go make our inline fragment reusable. If I can copy the correct part. Fragment, features fragment. On features, copy paste it, prettify it. Can I prettify it? No, not yet. That is the features fragment. Prettify and run. I get the same result set, basically. So that is about the first part. That is the features done. Now the text section is very simple, heading and text. And that is my document type over here. Let's do the same thing using a named fragment to get the information about this particular nested content item. So fragment, text section, fragment on text section. And then I can get the headline and text. And I can use this in my query again, like so. Let's go have a look. There we go. I have my text section details coming out, and that's the content I have here. Now the last one, it's the facts one. So what I have here is a collection of another document type called fact, which is like random facts about GraphQL. It's a very simple document type with a text, a score. Forget that this doesn't exist, because I was playing with Lee's contentment making its way into hardcore. What I'm doing here is I am picking, say, 3 facts to show up as, say, featured facts. And when it displays on the front end, I actually want the text field to show up, like so. So this is 3 chosen fact out of my facts list, and I want the text to be displayed. And for that, I have my element type here, the nested content element type, and I've got a multi-node tree picker. And if I go into this multi-node tree picker and show you what happens beneath the scenes, it picks up a content node. There's a maximum limit of 3, and only allowed items are the fact type. So when you have a multi-node tree picker, the return type in the schema depends upon the configuration as well. So because it is content, we get content back. But if you have a maximum number of items set to 1, it gets me just content. However, we have 3 here. That's more than 1. So it gets me a list of content in my schema. So let's go have a look. So in the docs, if I go to page, no, we just need the facts picker here. It gets me a list of content. So let's start writing some fragments again. So the fragment, facts fragment on facts fact picker. And the field I have in my fact picker document type is called facts, but it returns a list of content for me. That's no good. So which means we again need to bring in some kind of fragmenting. I'm going to go for inline fragmenting just for the easiness sake here. I'm saying that if the type is fact, then get me the text and the score. I'm only using the text, but you can bring in score as well if needed. And then I can use my facts fragment here. Facts fragment, let me just copy the name. Should bring up the result, and I've got the result here for me. So it's bringing me back the score as well, which ideally I don't need, but I'm just proving an example here. Mikkel, are we doing OK for time? Yeah. OK. So that's most of the page done. We have the hero, we have the features, we have the text section, we have the 3 facts built up. Now let's go after this block list that I have got here. It's a single item in my footer content called gallery, which is just a gallery of pictures. And my block list looks like so. It's an element type which only has a media picker, and it helps me pick multiple media items. And in my page docs, that is the field that I have in my schema, if I go have a look at the footer content field, it is bringing me back a list of block list items. So that is the return type whenever you have a block list in your document type. And that block list item is further made of 2 different fields. That is the content and the settings, each of which returns an element type. So let's see how we can put that into action. So let's have a fragment, gallery on footer content. Is it gallery on, sorry. Let's start with the footer content first, because that's the field here, isn't it? So footer content, that brings me back a list of block list item. And then I have the content field, which is what I'm after here. But the content field brings me back an element. So again, I have to do some kind of fragmenting there. And I know that what the footer content will allow is a gallery type. So let me write a gallery fragment, which acts upon gallery, the type. Let's go have a look at the fields again. It brings me back a content type alias and the images, which are from my document type. So let's go ask for that field. And then for the images, let me get the URL and probably the name. And then here, I can start using my gallery fragment. Did I add one too many? Yeah, there we go. And that brings me back all of my gallery items as well. So this is what the GraphQL query, or building a GraphQL query for a page, looks like. I think I've got a couple of minutes. 1 more minute? OK. I'm not going to prolong this myself. There is ordering and filtering as well with GraphQL query, and something that you can achieve with Heartcore as well. But if you want to pick up on advanced topics, you can go learn about filtering, ordering, the cursor-based pagination, which is a part of the relay specification, and also directives, which makes up any GraphQL schema. So that is it from me. Thank you for having me as a speaker today.